Hello, everybody. Welcome to the May 26th, 2021 meeting of the Oak Grove Community Council. We have a kind of a shorter agenda for you tonight than we might usually, but we have a local business and an update from the fire district. And so really quick, I'd like to allow our board of directors to introduce themselves. I'm Joseph Edge. I am the chair. Valerie, could you introduce yourself, please? I'll stop sharing so we can see.
I'm Valerie Chapman, and I'm the vice chair of the council.
Jan, could you introduce yourself?
Jan Lindstrom, board member at large.
And Rich?
Rich Nippon, board member at large.
And Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Elliott, member at large, and I live off of Concord Road.
All right, thanks, guys. And I think that we will probably start with our officer reports really quick. We actually didn't get the minutes from last month uploaded to the website in time to ask everyone to review those. And so we'll upload those after this meeting and send out one of our follow-up emails and ask everyone to take a look then and make sure that there are any corrections, that we get those recorded. And then we'll have a treasury update. And since James Civiletti is not here tonight, I'll ask Valerie to give the treasury update.
Well, it's not very complicated. We didn't have any income come in. We wrote one check to Jan Lindstrom to reimburse her for online hosting services that she paid for. And that check was for $264. And that leaves us with a balance of $1,448.38.
All right, thank you. And I think that up next, we actually have Captain Carrie Shanklin from the Clackamas Fire Department. Carrie, are you ready to,
Hi there.
share your screen?
Sure, yep, ready to go. So I just wanted to let you know that kind of the update, I had prepared kind of a little presentation, but the topic that we're really focusing on right now is wildfire awareness. May is Wildfire Awareness Month. And if you would have asked me prior to last fall if I ever thought people in our area would be at risk for wildfire, I would have said, oh, I don't think so, probably not. But just everything came together in almost the perfect storm for wildfire conditions last year. And so we're really trying to get homeowners to kind of think about if we ever become vulnerable again to the dangers of wildfire, which experts have said is a possibility and maybe even a probability. There are certain things that we can do to keep ourselves safer and try to prevent wildfires, and then think about what we would do if we ever encountered one. So I'm just going to share with you some of the things that we really espouse the concept of what's called defensible space. You might have heard that recently. It's been featured in the media. And so I'm going to go through some of the principles of that, some of the components of our Ready, Set, Go program, and then just kind of hit some resources that are available.
You need to be a co-host.
Oh, I think I might need to be a co-host to share my screen. Is it behind there?
They need to make you a co-host.
Valerie, are you able to help her with that?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
And then just
Okay. Okay, so just kind of the objectives of our presentation is just again, learning the principles of defensible, survivable space, and then understanding the components of the Ready, Set, Go program. And so if you think of your house with maybe like a circular zone around it of 30 feet, a lot of the yards and the people's property doesn't quite get to 30 feet, but some people have a lot of acres. And so that first 30 feet, we really want it to be considered like somewhat of a fire resistive zone. Just making sure the grass is cut, the trees are trimmed up, there's spacing between the brush, and then trying to keep kind of minimal combustibles in that space. And then one of the other things that we recommend is reducing flammable vegetation and brush around your home. Just keeping, if you can keep a little bit of spacing, we always say try to eliminate the ladder fuel concept. And that's where the shrubs are, you know, kind of like lower and then they go up to the canopy of the trees. If you can see some of the examples in the overgrown areas. And we just want people to kind of trim those down and keep it. Once a wildfire gets into the canopy of the trees, it's very hard to put out. So that's what we're espousing with that. And then in this slide, it said, I wrote, replace flammable shrubs with those that are fire resistant. And I'm not suggesting that people just go clear cut their landscaping, but if you're adding new plants, there are definitely some plants that are more fire resistive. There's a book, a really good resource by Oregon State that is called Fire Resistant Plants for Home Landscapes. And it's a really good, they just have some suggestions about plants that are more fire resistant. Oops. Just a second. My teenage daughter is helping me. And then, yeah, tech support. And then one of the other ideas is just when you have too many dense, the foliage is too dense around, it can also cause the fire to spread really rapidly. So spacing out the trees, providing space. We're not advocating that people have like a moonscape of gravel or anything like that, but just if you can get a little bit of space to thwart the spread of fire. The problem with wildfires is that the hot embers can travel up to a mile. And so, you know, when they travel that far and they hit dry debris, then the wildfires can spread into areas that wouldn't have ordinarily been affected. So we just want people to space things out a little bit. And then also keep the grass and weeds cut low. A lot of times in the fire district, we get people that are very upset that, you know, like, oh, my neighbor's grass is so tall and it's such a fire hazard, and it's difficult for us to sometimes, you know, enforce people to, you know, trim their grass, but it is safer. And it's just incumbent upon each individual homeowner to try to keep their shrubs and grass to ideally less than 4 inches to prevent the spread of wildfire. And then this is one of the neatest wood piles I've ever seen, but unfortunately it's right next to it looks like a shake siding house. And so we would suggest that you provide at least 20 feet from your home if you're going to stack, you know, wood piles, and then clear the brush away from the wood piles, like at least 10 feet away. So this.
Just click and then make sure you're on that screen.
Thank you. And then another suggestion we have is keeping your yard and roof clean. We do tend to see people, because we have so many trees in the area, their roofs get kind of overgrown with needles and other dead debris. The gutters get full. And then again, with the concept of the embers that can travel up to a mile, this is just tinder dry and it makes it more of a target for a wildfire. So if you can keep your gutters clean, roofs clean, that's advisable. And then one of the things that people may or may not be aware, with the fire department, our number one call that we go on is medical calls. So anytime, you know, like anytime your brain is without oxygen for, you know, more than 4 minutes, it starts to die. So if you think about, you know, a medical call where, ooh, you know, someone's having chest pains, and then all of a sudden, you know, like they go down, and then, you know, it's been a minute, and then we get out of the station, you know, it's been really maybe a very good response time, but maybe, you know, 3 or 4 minutes has passed. And then the fire engine can't see, you know, maybe isn't familiar necessarily exactly with the location of the house, and they can't see the address. And if they, you know, go past it a little bit, it's very time consuming to turn a fire engine around. And so in an emergency situation, that's wasting precious time. So not only for the concept of wildfires, but please keep your address signs visible so that we can get there soon and just help you as quickly as we can. So make sure that we know what where your house numbers are. And then also, can we get to your property? Some driveways are so narrow and so, like overgrown with trees or limbs, that can delay our progress or our time to get to the emergency as well. And then this, I'm not saying like, oh, time to go re-roof now just to choose a fire resistant roofing. But if your house is due for, like a new roof, it might make sense to choose a roofing material that's lower, less combustible. A tile roof is a great idea. A composition roof is a great idea. Shake roofs are probably one of the most combustible roofing choices. And so we don't really encourage people necessarily to use cedar shake tiles for the roofing. And then let's see. Defensible, survivable space, use alternatives to burning debris. So each year we get, and I think a lot of you might be in the burn ban zone. I'm not sure if you are even allowed to do debris burning, but if you can choose an alternative, we do get debris fires that get out of control. There are so many things that have to go right when you're having a debris pile. You need to make sure that you have a hose nearby, make sure that it's attended, make sure that it's a small pile. And ideally, we would suggest maybe chipping or recycling or composting your yard debris.
Sorry about that.
My technical support is getting replaced. There we go. And then be prepared to respond to a wildfire. So as with so many emergency suggestions, keeping a 72-hour kit handy. And a lot of our emergency managers have said, like, oh, it needs to be even more than that in case, like when they talk about perhaps the big earthquake. But as far as wildfire goes, we suggest keeping a 72-hour kit handy and then knowing the evacuation routes from your neighborhood, maybe practicing with your family, using a checklist of what to take with you before leaving. I just remember during the ice storms, everyone has so many things to, that was not the greatest time in the world, but just thinking about, I felt very unprepared. We live in an area that has a well. And so that meant when the power went out, we were without power for 8 days. And so we didn't have water and we didn't have electricity, heat or anything. And then their power lines had gone down on our road. So we were really stranded. And even though we had all the resources available in our home, I still felt unprepared. And so that was kind of an incentive to think about, okay, if I ever did need to evacuate, what are the essentials that I would need to have? And so that it's just another concept to think about for if you had to evacuate quickly during a wildfire situation. And then the ready, set, go principles, maybe you've heard this on the news a little bit, but there is a program that we've been espousing called, ready, set, go. And it's just essentially you being ready, creating this defensible space that I've been talking about, and then hardening your home against embers. And that's the cleaning the gutters and making sure that your roof is clear. And then the get set is preparing your family and home ahead of time for the possibility of having to evacuate. Just in an emergency, that is not the time to be trying to think really clearly about, like, what do I need to do? Where, what numbers where am I going to go? Because a lot of times in an evacuation, it's under kind of time duress and it makes it all the more stressful. So thinking ahead of time, having that grab and go kit ahead of time makes it go as smoothly as possible. And then ultimately, when the wildfire strikes, it can go so quickly, it can change direction rapidly. And so when they suggest that you evacuate, being ready to go and not, hesitating or taking extra time, just go. That's what we hope that people will do. And then as far as resources go, I'm so excited. We have in Clackamas Fire District number 1 and Clackamas County, there's the Clackamas Emergency Services Foundation, and they have provided funding for $500 grants to be used for fuels reduction and chipper rental. And so if you or your neighbors have a lot of storm debris that's, laying around, or, just that's considered fuel for a wildfire. And so we would really encourage people to take advantage of this great chipper grant program and apply. And it's on our website at clackamasfire.com under the Ready, Set, Go tab. And it's just essentially a drop-down menu that asks you questions, that asks you to take a photo of your property and then submit that application. And then it's a reimbursement grant. And so once you make the expenditure, you can even have a tree chipping company come out and do the work, but we will pay up to $500 grants to help you clear out some of those extra fuels. So I am happy. That's kind of the presentation I had, and I'm super happy to answer questions. If you have other areas you want me to talk about, just let me know.
Well, thank you. And yeah, absolutely. We'd definitely like to open it up to questions for you. Jan, I see your hand is raised.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much. It looks to be pretty dry already. I've heard that some counties have already requested drought designation or whatever. How does Clackamas County seem in terms of just the potential for fire, I guess?
Well, this is the driest April, I think, on record that we've had. And then May is kind of on par. I think we get rain tomorrow, but it's supposed to be in the top 5 of the driest Mays that we've had. And so that it seems really green and lush right now, but as we progress into July and August, so everyone's going to need to be really careful about sources of ignition, about and now I'm so paranoid now of hot wind that I think I was traumatized by the September wildfires because it was just such a warm, dry wind and so I just think if we get under the right conditions, we've already had brush fires. We had a brush fire on Redland Road a few weeks ago where people actually already had to be evacuated. So I don't mean to be like, oh no, the sky is falling, but just everyone I think really needs to be very, very cautious this year about potential threats for ignition and sources for wildfires.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Valerie?
I have just a question. In your grant program for fire reduction, would that also cover if you were going to get a dumpster to take away debris?
Yes, if you show pictures before, that's kind of the concept of, and most of the houses we will do a site visit. We'll just even a drive-by just to make sure. And we're really trying to encourage people to use, the money the way that it was intended. But if you show pictures, you get a dumpster, you put the debris in the dumpster, and then you show the resulting, more cleared property, that would be fine. Because our goal with that is just to reduce the fuels and have people have alternatives to burning the debris.
Great, because I think that a lot of people we don't have a pickup truck. And so, you're relying on other people, and then the cost of dumpsters is really high. So thank you.
Oh yeah. And if you guys, I don't know how closely you live together, like as far as, but maybe you could rent, a couple of homes could go in and say, hey, on this day we're going to rent a chipper, a dumpster or something, and then everyone bring your yard debris. And if you could do a coordinated effort, that you could really leverage that $500.
I have a question, Joe.
Please feel free.
Um,
Linda?
I have a neighbor who is an absentee neighbor and they own 3 acres and they haven't cleaned up after the last storm and they've got a very wooded lot. They will not answer my phone calls. Is there any agency through the county that could visit them or contact them to work out some kind of arrangement? I don't think they can afford to get it cleaned up is their problem.
Yeah, and that is usually code enforcement, like if you have some, like Clackamas County code enforcement can sometimes help. Um, yeah, unfortunately the fire department's a little bit limited on, what we can do, but that happens pretty often where people are really concerned about like, hey, I'm doing everything for my property, but my neighbor is not making me feel very safe. So again, just make sure your area is nice and cleaned up, and then you can contact code enforcement and find out if there's anything that you can do or if you can recommend.
How do I contact code enforcement?
I would go, well, obviously you're on the computer. I was like, do you have I would just Google Clackamas County Code Enforcement.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And code enforcement has a web form that you can fill out as well, and a phone number where you can call and make reports. And this, if you search for Clackamas County Code Enforcement on Google, you'll be able to find both of those resources. Any other questions for Captain Carey?
Can I make a comment here?
Craig.
If I could?
Sure.
So I'm going to make a plug for Carrie. My name's Craig Van Valkenburg, and I actually have the pleasure of being on the Emergency Services Foundation board. So we heard Carrie's presentation yesterday to our foundation board, and Carrie, you should mention how much money that the foundation put forth to support this program, because you had everybody at the edge of their seat wanting to help.
I've never had an experience like that. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude about how generous the foundation was, but they have given us enough money, $30,000 to fund, that's about 60 grants. And so, if you're feeling like I could really use that, please apply. We are here to minimize the fire risk for wildfire, even though it seems like, could it really happen here? It really could. Even just, brush fires, or that nice lady that said that she has a neighbor with 3 acres. So, those are all these very worthy causes. Let's get these fuels reduced to mitigate our chances of wildfire. And it's nice to see you.
Good to see you. I'd offer up too, if you're curious, go to the fire district's website. Steve McAdoo does a little YouTube video on exactly what Carrie's talking about. He just walks you through it in different scenes. And I think you were holding the cue cards, were you not? Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's very powerful information.
Yep.
Yeah, great program.
Nobody wants a repeat of last fall. So we're just doing everything we can right now.
Yep.
We definitely have time for more questions for Carrie. If anyone has anything else, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask or wave at the camera. Use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Well, it looks like that might be it, Carrie.
Okay.
So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for coming out and joining us. We really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. And if you ever need, another speaker for another date or another meeting, just let us know. We appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have our presenter from Octoplasma here?
Yeah.
Is that you? And I'd like to turn the floor over to you. It's our featured local business, the new business in the area. So please feel free to introduce yourself and let us know what your business is about.
Yeah, so I will admit I'm a little nervous. I haven't done this in so long because it's been a year. But I am the center director for Octapharma Plasma, and we're a plasma donation center. I'm just going to speak a little bit about what we do, what that means, and who that helps. We are a plasma donation center. So when you come in, you donate your plasma. You do not donate blood. You get your blood back. The plasma goes on to help so many treatments. So any autoimmune deficiency disorder, hemophiliacs, during COVID, the plasma with antibodies for people that have had COVID saved lives. And plasma does save lives. We're different than blood donation in the sense that we pay for plasma because we get paid for plasma. So if you donate plasma, you are compensated for that. And the way that works is for the first 5 times, there's a range from like $100 to $100 to 75, 50, 75, 100. And then it goes into, you become a return donor, and that is based on your weight. It's based on your hematocrit, your protein level, and your ability to donate. And there's a lot that goes into it with donor safety. We have to comply to FDA rules. We also sell a lot of our plasma to Europe. So we have to comply to AGIS standards, which is the European FDA, essentially. So we have, very strict standards that we have to follow. We are audited 6 times a year. And what we do is, it's important. And I think that sometimes it's sort of seen as different than blood donation because it seems like it's people that are money seeking, but that's not entirely the case. A lot of people donate plasma because they can and they're good donators. And yes, financially it does benefit them. I mean, if you donate an entire month, I mean, you can make up to $700 doing it. So there are people that need the money and they do it for that reason. And then there are people that donate plasma because they understand that it can save someone's life. And most of the medication that's made from plasma deals with autoimmune deficiency, hemophiliacs. 1 unit of plasma can save 1 hemophiliac's life. And the same is true for other autoimmune deficiencies. And I think that just there's a stigma. I think with plasma donation, I myself am an intake nurse and have seen a lot. And doing this has been really rewarding because it's pretty incredible to see what happens from, the plasma donation to the medication that's created, and watching what it did through COVID was just really rewarding. So I'm here to answer any questions. I mean, if you want to talk about the process or where it goes, what happens, I'm happy to answer any questions about that. It's pretty fascinating. I could nerd out and like geek out on the whole thing, but I won't do that. So yeah, if you guys want to ask anything, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, so I know I've given blood. Okay, so you say with plasma you get your blood back. So I'm like, okay, I have no idea. Maybe I'm the only one here has no idea what you're talking about. But would you explain that process?
Absolutely, and there's no way that you would. I mean, until I got into this industry, basically, I didn't really get it either. It's fascinating. So we use a plasmapheresis machine, and what happens is we do take small amounts of blood at a time. So there's 4 draw cycles where we pull blood. That goes into a centrifuge. Plasma is lighter than blood, red blood cells. Plasma lifts, red blood cells stay. There is an effluent tube that pulls the plasma out. There's another effluent tube that goes back into your venipuncture site. So your red blood cells go back in and your plasma comes out. And we do that 3 to 4 times, depending on the person, the draw, their health, their hydration, how they eat. if you had a red blood cell loss for some reason, then you cannot donate for 56 days, because we don't, if you lose red blood cells, and this is rare, but if you do lose them, it's just like blood donation. You can't come back. But with plasma, you can donate twice a week as long as you get your red blood cells back. That's what we have to get back to you. But by and large, that happens consistently. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it made more sense than I knew before. I mean, I have a whole lot of other questions about that process, and it's like, what kind of people can't donate, and what, you know, who are you looking for? What's your ideal donor? And
You know, really, pretty much anyone can donate. Unfortunately, the things that I find difficult is homeless people cannot, because they're high risk, and they won't, you have to have an address that you live, you know, where you live and receive mail and prove that. That's just how the company works. And there are certain medications that you can't take and donate plasma. And there are also other things, like if you were in Europe during Mad Cow, you can't donate. It's kind of specific, but for the most part, I would say for out of 100% of the people that come in, I would say 98% can donate. We don't drug test. We don't do any of that, because plasma doesn't absorb that into plasma. That stays in your bloodstream. So we deal with a lot of walks of life, and I think that's great. And most people, I would say, successfully make it through the process and donate.
Thank you. Rich, I saw your hand up next.
Yes, my question is, some of it you touched on. I guess my question is the process to find out if you qualify.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen? Is it online, or is it on the phone, or do you come in, or how does that work?
It's a great question. I would say there were certain things. One thing that there are certain things that are where you can't, and again, like the homeless thing, unfortunately. Also 67 and over, although the company has just decided to move that age to 72. We haven't done it yet, but I see that happening in the future. Just because you can get reactions for people from drawing blood, and you never really know how or why that would happen. But the thing is just to come in, and you have a physical with one of our licensed practitioners. And then through that whole process, you go through the donation process. And that first process takes about 2 hours. Beyond that, once you are past that portion, you come in, you donate. The whole process is like 45 minutes at the most.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Kathy, see your hand up next.
What is the business address?
It is 15828 Southeast McLaughlin, 9726. I'm sorry?
What are you near?
So we're right by that strip with Harbor Freight, Grocery Outlet, Aaron's, then it's us, and then there's the theater, which I don't think is currently open. So we're right there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
My hand down.
Do we have any other questions for? I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Well, it says Alexandra, and it's because that's my first name, but I go by Brooke, and I'm happy to talk to anyone, if you guys want to come in, we're definitely trying to get more donors, and we would love to reach out in any way that we can. So feel free.
Thank you. Valerie, I see your hand again.
Yeah, I got lots of questions. So how long does it your
Oh,
body
please.
recuperate and replenish plasma once you've given? And is it, like when you give blood, I mean, it's been a while since I gave blood, but you can get orange juice and a donut or something to try to afterwards. But so tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. With blood donation, again, when you lose red blood cells, you definitely have to have almost a 60-day period to safely replenish those red blood cells. But when we separate that and take your plasma and put your red blood cells back in, the plasma replenishes within, so we require, if you donate, let's say on Tuesday, you got to take Wednesday, you can come back on Thursday. So some people can manage 9 donations in 1 month, but what we say is basically 2 donations a week. So you can spread that out if you want. Our week starts on Monday and ends on Saturday. So if you donated Monday, you could donate again Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. You could donate Tuesday and then donate Thursday or Friday. You need a full 24 hours, like a full day in between, and it's perfectly safe to donate. It is not safe to go to another center and donate in between. And if that happens, we have a list where we will input your name and information and see that you've donated, and we won't allow the donation for donor safety.
Anata.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Anata. You got it right.
Anata.
Yeah, you can't tell though. Anyway, my question is, if you come in to donate, about how long will it take once you're there?
That's an awesome question. The first time, because you'll watch a video, you'll answer questions, you'll go through a physical, you'll go through a screening. The first time I say, to be safe, 2 hours. So we're open on weekdays, we're open from 9 to 3, and you can come in at any point at that time. You can walk in at 3 and we'll take a new donor. We'll stay till 5:30. We really want those units. So the first time 2 hours, but then after that, when you're a return donor, 45 minutes, and you lie on a bed, they do it. You can have your phone. We play movies. We try to entertain people while they're there. So yeah, it's just that first time with that physical that takes some time because we have to really vet people. So
thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
Any other questions? Rich.
Yeah, is the payment taxable?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's a donation, so it's not taxable. And what we do is we have basically, the best way I can explain it is they're just like front-loaded debit cards. So when you leave, you have a card on you, and that has, if it's your first donation, $100 on it. There is no tax on that. That is your $100. That's how it works.
Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or wave at the camera.
I love all these questions.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
We might be done though. So
right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was great that you're able to be here tonight, and we're glad that we caught you.
Thank you so
Feel
much.
free to come back anytime.
I would stay, and I would actually like to come back, but I have a 5-year-old who you can hear it is bedtime. So I'm gonna dip out tonight, but I would love to maybe come back sometime.
Yeah, please do. Feel free anytime.
Sounds good.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Brooke.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I think we are into our committee updates section. So just really briefly, we are in the process of getting some traction as the LUART again. And so there's been a couple of things that have come through. We're going to try to make sure that we're notifying everybody of important opportunities to comment on the handful of land use applications we've been seeing so far, and then we're going to really be kind of getting ahead of this again here pretty soon with a new group of volunteers. So thanks to you who have volunteered, and again, if anyone else is interested in volunteering, please send an email to contact@oakgrovecpo.org, and would be happy to add you to the team. Rich, did you have something on that?
On the LUART, yeah, sorry about my dogs. On the LUART, I forgot to mention this. We found out at the CPO summit meeting that we can ask for an extension of time to respond. We can't call it an extension, but they basically have told us that as long as it's before they write up their final opinion of what they're going to do, they'll accept whatever we want to add in. I know we've run into problems in the past where there's a 20-day period in which we're supposed to respond, and we don't meet every 20 days. So that's just a new change that I wasn't aware of having to do with LUAR.
Cool, thanks for mentioning that. And while I've got you here, do you have an update this month from the CERT?
I do. It's not much of an info. We're still meeting by Zoom, and we have been, various members have been helping out with the vaccine centers, donating hours of time. And that's really what's been happening. There was some new equipment that's gotten in and distributed. We have radios again that are available. And we're just hoping soon that we'll be able to start meeting again in person.
Cool, thank you. And up next, we have a Concord School update from Mark.
All right, thank you. Let's hope that I can get this to show up there. Okay, if everyone can see my screen. I thought I'd just take a moment to go through some of the materials that were reviewed at our last task force meeting, which occurred last Thursday. So the design team is currently working on the schematic design phase. So I thought I'd just start going a little bit about the schedule for what's happening. This is both, the schedule is for both the libraries occurring here for the Oak Lodge Library, but also for the Gladstone Library. But this information will be specific to the Oak Lodge Library. So we're currently in the schematic design phase, and these design phases will go through to the winter of 2022. And then sometime next spring, the project will be permitted and bid and sent out to bid to contractors with an anticipated construction start in spring of 2022. So we're expecting our groundbreaking to occur around that time frame. So when that groundbreaking takes place, I'm sure there'll be quite a bit of activity letting everyone know about that groundbreaking and inviting the community to participate in that. So the first slide here really is the latest site plan of the project. As many of you know, the Concord School is the building in the upper right-hand portion of the drawing. And the library portion of it is a new structure that's slightly to the left of that. So the library is going to be taking partially in a new building and partially as a part of the school. Over to the other left side is a development of the play fields that are there now into a developed park. So there'll be a small play field that can be used for pickup games and maybe a soccer game, but it is not intended to be, like an official playing field that would be, used. It's more for use by the community. There is currently kind of a street that comes through from the left-hand side, and that street is being, it goes all the way through the property, and that street is being vacated or eliminated, and now that'll be a part of the park. Parking is kind of happening on the lower end of the site as you kind of go towards McLaughlin. And Concord Road is over to the right of the drawing, which is where the entrance is to the parking area and also to the school. So next drawing really is kind of a layout of the ground floor of the library and community center. You'll see kind of in the dark salmon color, that's kind of the layout of the library. There is a new gymnasium that's being built that's kind of in the back here, in that kind of darker blue color. The NCPRD offices will be located in the ground floor here. That's kind of in that purple color. And then the yellow area is kind of the public areas that allow for circulation and places for people to convene. There's also locker rooms for men and women and restrooms for all the public to use. Next drawing is the upper level of the school. You'll see down at the bottom page the stairs that lead up to the original entrance to the school. The entrance to the building now will be over, if I go back one, just over the entrance is over kind of where you see that word vestibule. That's really the entrance to the facility now, in versus using the existing entrance to the school. And that's for reasons of accessibility for those who are in wheelchairs or walkers or have difficulty, navigating stairs. So on this level is, again, the existing gymnasium that is there. That gymnasium is being maintained, and the stage that's currently there is also being maintained as well, that can be used for a variety of different purposes, including for theater and music presentation. The community center portion of it is up on this level, and you'll see kind of in the kind of goldenrod colors that there are meeting rooms that are being provided that are can be opened into one really large room or divided into 3 rooms. There's also a kitchen that's being designed in the back that will be used for some kind of food service. Also a team space up in front, and then some also active spaces that can be used for either for the community center or for the programs that NCPRD expects to have here in the building. So here are some images then next of just from the architect's renderings of how we see this facility looking. So over to the right of the drawing, you're going to see the original Concord School building. And if you see that corner, kind of in the corner, you kind of see a cutaway there, that's kind of the entrance to the facility. And then over to the left is the beginnings of the new library building. So a lot of materials are the same kind of brick and brick patterns that you see on the school. But you also see a lot of glass down on the lower level where people are sitting in the library so that they can see out into the garden area. This is kind of an image inside the library where you see the main circulation and a collection. And there's some windows up high that allow light into the space. So the intent from the architects is really just to provide a lot of natural light so that there's really good light quality for those who are in the library reading and enjoying the space. The next drawing is a picture of the new gymnasium that's towards the back of the school. You can kind of see over on the right-hand side, there's some windows up way up high. Those are windows into the existing gymnasium And so those windows are going to be left, and there's skylights just above them to allow for natural light into both a new gymnasium as well as the existing gymnasium. So those are what I wanted to share. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for anyone. Any questions anybody have?
Mark, who is the architect that you're referencing?
The architect is the firm Opsis that's located here in Portland. They're a local firm.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I'll just,
Valerie.
Mark, thank you so much for that presentation. For people that have been going to the library meetings and have seen all of those, that maybe they already know that, but I've heard lots of reports but not seen such detailed information. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciate actually having the opportunity to see all of that tonight.
You bet. And I'll try to bring some other images as they come to our next meeting. So if you go to the what is it called? Oak Lodge in Gladstone Community Project. If you Google that, it'll take you to the project website that's a part of the Clackamas County website. And all of the meeting notes and presentations are there for people to see. It's a little hard to get there. It's a little hard for me. I do it all the time and stuff, but it is there. So in the event that you'd like to see the meeting notes or any other presentations that have taken place so far.
Melissa?
Yes, I sometimes look on Google Images about children's libraries and how they're set up and how they're decorated. And I think at the Leading Library, they have a stylized river going across the wall and leaves and things coming down from the ceiling. And I was really curious about what's going to happen in the children's section of our new library.
That's a great question. There is a separate children's section as well as a teen section. And the architects and interiors people are beginning to get some concepts of how that's going to look, both as selection furniture as well as imagery, sculpture, graphics. So those are still yet to be developed, and that's kind of we start to see that in the next few months as they start to develop that. But I know this architect pretty well from my being an architect for a long time, and they have a great track record for really doing some wonderful things. And so I think we'll all be very, very pleasantly surprised with what they provide for our new community center and library.
Great, thank you.
Do you have any other questions for Mark? Feel free to use the raise hand feature or wave at the camera.
Let's see.
I don't have a question, but I will add something to what Mark said. In the June CIA newsletter, I put a direct link into the meeting that you had last Thursday, so people don't have to try to navigate the website to find that information.
And thank you,
Awesome.
Delma.
Anything else for Mark before we move on? All right. Well, thanks for that update, Mark. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing more of this project, how this project moves forward in the future. So thank you. Up next, I think we have Anita again with an update from the NCPRD District Advisory Committee.
Yes, hi, everybody. First off, I want to thank everyone who came to the April 29th public meeting for selecting North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Advisory Committee members. And I'm very happy to be one of your new representatives from the unincorporated part of NCPRD. And my plan is to stay in touch with people directly one-on-one and also by way of CPOs and HDOG and other community groups. So I will put my email in the chat later in case anybody wants to let me know about their parks wishes or concerns. And now that I'm on the first DAC, on the DAC, the first public meeting isn't going to happen until June 16th, a public meeting at 6:30 by Zoom. And after that, the meetings will be held on the second Wednesday of the month at 6:30 by Zoom, or at least as long as we go with Zoom. We'll see how that goes. So I will say that so far, a different committee, the NCPRD Budget Committee, met earlier this week. And this committee is made up of the BCC plus 4 community members. And during that meeting, the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022, which runs from July 1st to June 30th, was approved with the inclusion of some commentary by Commissioner Savas, which was about an out-of-date funding model that breaks the district into 3 funding zones instead of the original single district-wide model. So you can listen to that recording of the May 24th budget meeting if you care to. I assume it's on the county's website. And if you want to just read the budget, you can look on NCPRD's website and look at all the aspects of the funding. Not sure what I wrote down here. But anyway, in the budget, there are 5 funding areas, basically: parks and trails, administration, recreation, older adult services, and asset development, which includes capital improvement plan, acquisition of parkland, and repair and replacement of capital assets. And I'm kind of focused on the parks and trails part specifically, although I'm learning about every aspect of it. And in terms of this budget, the parks and trails projects that have proposed funding include creation of a trails master plan, an all-weather ball fields master plan, a makeover of 3 parks in downtown Milwaukee, the construction of the Concord School Park Library Community Center project, which we just heard about, and the Jennings Lodge Elementary School improvements that will result in a park that will be shared between the school and the community. So I'll put a few things in the chat, some links, and I'll see you next time with the latest.
Thanks, Anna. And yeah, make sure you send those to me in an email as well, and we'll get those into our follow-up newsletter.
Okay, sure.
Make sure everyone gets that info.
Okay.
And then up next, we had a slot for an update from the Oak Lodge Governance Project, but our speaker was unavailable to attend tonight, and so I will make the plug on her behalf. On June 12th at noon, the next public meeting of the Oak Lodge Governance Project will be held on Zoom, and the speaker will be Leah Robbins, who used to work for TriMet and will be speaking about transportation issues. So we'll include an announcement about that with links in our follow-up newsletter as well. So I'll jump back into my presentation here. And so right now, the open recruiting for the advisory boards and commissions is kind of light. There's a budget committee, which you have about a month to before the deadline. The Clackamas Workforce Partnership will close a few days after that. And then the Veterans Advisory Council has open seats, and that will be closing in 2 days. So by the end of the week. So if you are interested in serving the community on any of those committees, please visit the Oddball website, web3.clackamas.us/abc. Again, we'll put this in our follow-up newsletter, but I just wanted to share these with you while we had you here. And with that, I'll open up the floor for announcements. Let me stop sharing, you get a look. Everybody, please feel free to use the raise hand feature or wave at the camera if you have any announcements from the floor. Okay, hearing none. Kathy, I see your hand. Please unmute.
Yeah, you asked me a question on chat and then you muted or disabled my chat, so I can't reply. So will you please enable
What was
chat?
were we checking the rosters?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I think we've got you on file.
Okay.
Were there any other attendance problems? Attendance team?
I don't know.
I had, was going to ask Baldwin, Baldwin's last name?
Is Baldwin still on?
Yeah, I'm on. My last name is Van der Byle.
All right, thank you, Baldwin. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Sorry about that inconvenience, Kathy. We definitely have you covered in the attendance for tonight. So thank you for bringing that up. Anything else from anybody before we move on? Anita.
Yeah, I was going to put something in the chat, but mine's disabled also, so I don't know how that works.
Yeah, if you can send that to me. The chat will evaporate as soon as we close the meeting. So if you could send that to me, we can get it into our follow-up email.
Okay, that sounds great. So I'll just forget
Perfect,
about
thank
the
you.
chat. Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, so our schedule review, we've got a board meeting on June 7th, and then our next meeting is on June 23rd, and we have a presentation that evening scheduled from the Here Together campaign. So we're looking forward to that. And with that, that's our show. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next month.
And were we going to?
And actually, yeah, if anyone wants to stick around, we can do the after hours hangout. But we will stop recording and stop sharing.